This is a video that provides a broad framework of business valuation. It should provide you some sort of background to my other videos that talk about a specific approach to valuation. Before you start valuing any company, you should spend quite a bit of time in the process. And the first one in the process is to understand the business and the industry environment. As you know, not all companies or industries are homogeneous, right? And you should pay close attention to the cycle of the business and the industry. And you should know how competitive the industry is and whether the company is being able to maintain competitive advantage or not. So there are few tools people use to assess the business environment and competitive advantage, and that I'm aware of is Porter's 5 Purses, and if you don't know them, you can definitely try to find, and SWOT analysis. So both of these are extensively covered in strategy classes, but if you are not aware of, I would definitely encourage you to learn these techniques to assess the business and the industry environment. Besides these tools, if you know any other statistical tool, then you can also use this tool to assess how competitive the industry is and the competitiveness of the firm that you are looking at. The second one in the process is identify the stage of the business and its value drivers. Remember, businesses are like human beings. They come into existence, they grow at higher speed, and then they get maturity level. If they are not innovative enough, then at some point they die or go out of business. So knowing at what stage of the business is critically important in valuation, because that drives the future growth of that business. And besides at what stage the business is, you should also know the major value drivers of the business. And sometimes it depends on the type of the business and the type of the industry the business in, but I think we can summarize few key drivers of every business. And I think the first one and the most important one is how innovative the business is and whether it has a potential for growth or not. So this one is the most important value drivers of any business. The second, I think, is the sustainability performance. When I say sustainability performance, how the business is dealing with its customers and what kind of relationship it has with the society, as well as how it is dealing with the environment. So in a way, the governance issue and the environmental aspect is also critically important these days in order to create the long-term value. Besides these 2 points, another very important aspect of this value driver is look at whether the company is being able to have the right choices of their financing or not, because financing is a huge cost, and if the company are not smart enough to have the right kind of financing sources, they lose a lot of value. That's why it is critically important to figure out whether the company is being able to finance its business efficiently or not. And another important aspect of value driver is look at how the company is managing its short-term capitals. This is important because when companies have a lot of cash not being able to use productively, it is going to take some of the value away in the long run. And besides that, I think another important thing you can look at is how the business is managing its business risk as well as the financial risk. So third in the process is analyze the company based on historical financial statement, and I have explained how to analyze a company in another video. Follow that and see how the company is doing over the past few years, because knowing past will definitely help to make some assumption about the future. That's why this is an important step in the valuation. And the fourth step in the valuation is now you know the business environment and the industry, and you know the core value driver of the business, and you have also done historical performance analysis. And once you have done all these your homework and also look at the annual statement for their strategies they are taking, now you are ready to prepare future financial statement. So based on all the information you have gathered so far, you have to prepare the projected financial future for as long as you can, and beyond that planning period, so you have to make some sorts of reasonable assumptions how the company or the business is going to grow. So once you forecast your financial statement and make reasonable assumption for the long run, finally what you do is you compute the value of the business using one of the approaches or more than one of the approaches. So in the next slide, I am going to provide you just an overview of different approaches people are using in order to value a business. The first one is discounted cash flow approach. In this approach, what people do is they compute cash flow to the business, and based on this cash flow, they compute the intrinsic value. And the second approach is relative valuation approach. And in this approach, what you do is you compute the value of the competitors or closely related business based on the value of its competitors. You can compute the value of the business that you are looking at. And the third most widely used method is income approach. In this approach, what you do is you compute the income to the business, some sorts of measure of income like economic value added or something like operating income, and you use that kind of measure to compute the intrinsic value of the business. So these are the basic most widely used valuation approaches at the undergraduate level. So if you are more advanced, then you know some statistics. You can also use some Monte Carlo simulation techniques people have been using these days. And besides that, if you have some idea about the option pricing, and if you know about the option pricing theory, and you can also introduce these option pricing theories in your valuation methods. Thank you.